Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. The substance.
Welcome to Primetime, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Chambers. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad and Carrie. How's it going, guys?
Going great.
It is going great, and we're getting back to reviews. It's been a little bit
Yes.
since we've done actual individual movie reviews, so we're getting back into it. Hunter, what are we reviewing today?
Today, we are reviewing the Academy Award nomination, or nominee, I should say, The Substance from 2024. I am super excited to get into this review. So, Chad, why don't you go and give us a brief synopsis of The Substance?
Yeah, this is definitely a wild one. Basically, you have an aging TV star, like aerobic instructor, who is kind of being forced out of her hustle, or I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
star show, and they basically, the studio wants a younger person, someone who's like fresher and younger and newer, and this is a kind of thing that happens sometimes. But what happens is the star finds a program that allows her to basically inject herself and with a substance to to gain a new younger body. And when you don't obey the rules of this substance, things can go haywire, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, do you have? Can you tell us who made this? Who's in this?
Yeah, so it was written and directed by Corley Farge and stars, as we talked about, Demi Moore. It also stars Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
basically, one filmmaker, three stars. Of course, a lot of other people involved. There's so much that went into making this, but you know, uh, n- not. It's a very small movie that had such a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do we want to get into now, Hunter?
So let's get into kind of our non-spoiler thoughts for people who haven't seen it. Then we'll go into more of our spoiler discussion. I'll start with this one if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Um, I watched this movie like literally an hour ago for kind of like the refresh of this movie, and I love it even more. I love the acting. Like first and foremost, is incredible. Demi Moore does such an incredible job at portraying this aging movie star and like what their psyche is going from a big name, like an Oscar winning name in this movie, to someone who is, kind of losing that star quality. And like, what will you do? Like, what extreme takes will you go to recapture your youth? I think is a really great, poignant message. But I also love how it's like this film also talks about mental health in a way of like self sabotage, and it's like people with depression or people with anxiety, when you look at yourself in a mirror, you start looking at flaws in yourself that maybe other people don't see, and that can drive you insane. And I love that this movie is very like out front with that message of self-love. Don't look at all your flaws, because we're all unique in our certain way, which I love. um but I also love the body horror. This that definitely has a Cronenberg style to it that really works, especially the ending. It goes absolutely crazy, but the performances, the kind of the atmosphere and the environment of the film puts you in is very unique. So I really love this movie. This was my number two movie of last year.
Carrie, as our resident lady, of the group. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this movie is so excellent. It also, like, Hunter touched on a lot of the themes in this movie. I mean, it also deals a lot with aging. I think particularly aging as a woman, although I think is probably relatable to everyone. And a lot of just like beauty standards. Again, I think pretty particular to, like, it's focused on women, but I think anyone can also identify with this, like, as far as, like, living up to the expectations that you place on yourself and that society places on you. Um, uh, kind of like unjustly, right? Like these expectations, like the way Demi Moore's character is treated in this movie versus the way, the character's treated when she appears as Margaret Qualley, and like just their development. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit at this point, but um, yeah, I think, and also, like, this movie is so crazy as well. Like, when we first saw it, I did not think, Chad was like, it's gonna get nominated at the Oscars, and I was like, there's no way. But I forget that the Oscars now is like, it's really been kind of reinvigorated with like a lot of new members, and I think the people who are now nominating and voting at the Oscars are like really appreciative of the type of movie that this is. Whereas in the past, I don't think this would have had a chance. Like it's so similar to like something like Society. Like the ending is just like completely
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And so it was really cool to see it get nominated and get so much love. And yeah, like watching this movie, I was uncomfortable for a lot of it. There's a lot of extremely tense parts. Um, but I think rewatching it, I would not be like, as uncomfortable, because once you kind of know what happens, it's a little bit easier to like kind of move
Mm-hmm.
through the movie, I think. But yeah, as a first time watch, this is like, there's just so much going on. Some of it is like so cringy, and the body horror is so horrific. But it's really cool, and it's really well done.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with where you guys are coming from. I think this movie's fantastic. It's just one of those that comes along every so often that, like horror movies that actually get some love. It feels like we get one like every decade, basically, where you have, the last one was like what, Get Out, or yeah, Get Out.
Hereditary, I would say.
Hereditary wasn't nominated. So what I'm talking about, like, is one that
Oh, nomination. Sorry.
it actually gets like a nomination. Where I think it's because you have a lot of the slates have 10 movies, like you have to have 10 movies, that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they might feel a little more willing to give something like The Substance that takes big swings and is just kind of weird. A Best Picture nomination, and that's all it's going to get for the most part, unless they want to be really cool and give it the win. But I think Harry's right that it's a different voting body a lot of the times too, and just different mentalities as far as what someone can see as prestige. And I think that's what this movie is it's prestigious. I mean, you wouldn't call Corley Farjay's uh, uh, other film, Revenge, a prestige movie, even though it is really good. It's really fun. It does a lot of like similar things
Mm-hmm.
to The Substance. But then I think The Substance goes harder with the messaging, and I think the screenplay is like really incredible. A friend of the channel, Dylan Randazzo, actually read it and said it reads like so fun and so like fast, and it reads
Mm-hmm.
like an incredibly thrilling novel, basically. So yeah, I mean, when you have like, something like that, like obviously Corley had something on her mind. I know, some of my other friends have had, issues with this type of mentality in Hollywood and just like in society in general, as far as like beauty standards go, and, men and women, but, it's kind of like more of a thing, you know, against women, especially in the Hollywood movie industry, TV
Hmm.
industry, um, where at a certain age, you know, you just kind of get the cold shoulder. You just stop getting the calls. Um, and so, you know, you have to have, you know, maybe sort of a comeback or something. And, but like men aren't really seen the same way. And in this, you get so much, you know, of that like hyper masculine, like, you know, uh, writing off of people based on, you know, very arbitrary like stuff, like, you know, her face isn't symmetrical.
Hmm.
um you know, her private parts don't look you know, look quite right, or whatever. You know, just like really like demeaning someone, and making them like into it, turning them into an object that just doesn't look aesthetically how you want it to look. um and I feel like, you know, with that, she took that and made a really freaking cool horror movie out of it. Like, this did not have to be a horror movie. You could have that, you know, be a drama where Demi Moore's not getting it, and, you know, then she meets a younger person or something, and, you know, they have conversations about what it's like to feel this way, and like she could have
Hmm.
went that way with it. But, you know, she's a genre filmmaker, and she was like, I'm gonna make a really cool ass horror movie out of this. um and I love when they you can take like a message um like that, and then turn it into something horrific, because oftentimes that's what it is, and that's how people feel about it, is, you know, I don't want to get into like, you know, a bunch of spoilers here, but yeah,
Hmm.
honestly, I think this movie just moves incredibly well. It's actually quite long. Like,
Yeah, it's 220.
yeah, it's quite long for what it is, and I feel like people have criticized it for that, and I'd feel like I kind of get it. Like, I do think it is a little long, but like I also don't know what I would cut out of it.
Hmm.
One of those movies where I'm like, it feels a little long, but also moves really well. It's also super engaging. You're trying to, you know, uh, figure out what's going to happen, because it keeps compounding. Like, certain things that happen in this keep compounding. And, like, you're just so invested to see where this is going to go, and where it goes is somewhere wild.
Hmm.
That's also another like big uh controversy, is like the third act of the thing. Um Maybe not controversy, but divisive
Hmm.
criticism of the movie. And a lot of people, the third act kind of ruins it for them. And then you have people like me, and I think you guys too, that say it's the perfect ending. Like,
Yes.
it just, why have a movie that builds and then not go hard in the end, and just say, I'm gonna go for it? Like, why would you want just like a soft landing when you could just have like a bam, son? um and I feel like, you know, because it did go there, and she took all these chances and had all these great like effects, and had all these effects, got all these, you know, nominations, because it's I don't know, just like really, really well crafted. The performances, like you guys said, are just incredible. I wish Quali would have got a nomination
Yes.
in there. People, even though he was nowhere near being like, you know, close to being uh, nominated, Dennis Quaid was, a lot of people like, you know, love that performance, because he's you know, just so extra, and like embodies like the Hollywood system just in himself
Hmm.
and how he acts. Um, and then yeah, also the cinematography of this thing is just wild,
Incredible.
because it's kind of Kubrickian, where it feels like you're watching The Shining. She must have done that on purpose, because there's so many like scenes you could put like side by side, that you're like, wow, that shot looks exactly like, you know, something out of The Shining, and
Hmm.
that is, you know, a pure compliment. I did want to rattle off like what it was, the awards that I got. I mean, got so many awards like across like different awards bodies, but just at the Academy Awards, I got a Best Picture nomination, Best Director nomination, Best Actress nomination for Demi Moore, and then original screenplay nomination, and then it won makeup and hairstyling, and it definitely deserved that. That was such a incredible feat. It's one that I haven't dove too deep into the behind the scenes stuff and how they crafted it, but it's definitely like a one of a kind of a thing. I love how the substance works. I love how it sets the rules only to break them. And yeah, just like what it says about all the themes that we've been talking about, I just think it's so incredible. Need to be said. I think now more than ever. And I think that's why it like resonated with so many people. And it's also just a really cool movie. So, like, you have like so many different like demographics that could actually really fall in love with this movie. From your, I don't know, nice ladies to your, bros that are like, oh shit, dude, did you see it like out? See how this movie ended? That's crazy. That's how bros talk, right? But yeah, I think it's incredible. It wasn't like my number one to win Best Picture, but I was so happy it got a nomination because horror deserves more. Nominations like this make me so happy, but then also so mad because Hereditary didn't get one, and other movies, that are very similar to Hereditary and just such great like horror, like recent horror, just doesn't really get the accolades or the attention that they deserve, and this one did, and I think it's so great, and that's why we decided we definitely wanted to talk about it. So Hunter, I think for this one we should get into a little bit more of a spoiler territory and like actually just start talking about what we like about the movie.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, this is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen The Substance, go check it out, and then come back and join us. I want to start at the very beginning of the movie. I love the setup of Elizabeth's Hollywood Walk of Fame starting out how it was building. So it's like her career is building up, and then it's done. Everyone's taking photos with it. It looks it looks nice and pristine, and then the seasons start changing, and then it starts getting weathered, and then there's cracks in the armor in the star, and then somebody drops their food on it and people are walking all over it. It's a very in like a 2-minute scene, you get pretty much what the entire movie is about, and I love it without almost any dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed that. You nailed like the meaning behind it, I believe, and it just looks so good, so well shot, and just really like has that like symbolism right on the front and says this is what the movie is, this is what it's about, without actually saying it. It's just all visuals, like you said, no dialogue. It's not even like anyone that they're focusing on, and it's just a star, and it's just in the first couple minutes it just says this is what the movie's about. Here we go, strap in.
Yeah.
And then we get Elizabeth and like what she's what her show kind of is, and then goes into kind of like how she's feeling. She's talking with Dennis Quaid, and it's really uncomfortable, like the way they shoot Dennis Quaid eating and just like
oh my god,
things
the most disgusting part of the movie right there, him eating that freaking
one of yeah. But and then he's saying things that are really gross and just would make really anyone uncomfortable. And yeah, it just kind of like sets up like what this world is, and how uncomfortably close to how this really is in real life, even if it is a tad exaggerated.
I also love how Dennis Quaid's character is named Harvey,
Yeah.
Obvious reference to Harvey Weinstein and that kind of Hollywood system. Um, but also before the bathroom scene, that's where we get our first shot of pretty much this looks like a shining hallway right
Yeah.
after Elizabeth gets out of her workout show. She goes down this long hallway, and the color scheme and the floral patterns on the carpet really gave me Shining vibes.
Yeah. And you can see just how like kind of empty and fake, how all this feels, just a really long empty hallway. Yeah. And like one of my favorite shots or like parts is when she's like at one end of the hallway, she's the focus, and then Dennis Quaid pops up at the very end of the hallway and goes like, oh, and has to walk down the hallway. Honestly, like
Yeah.
sometimes I kind of wish the movie was a little bit longer and like they had done like a very like David Lynch kind of thing and just had him walk down the hallway like for a really long time.
And then have him walk back all the way.
Yes.
Making it like exclusively long.
And then like cut back to her and then cut back to him and maybe he glances back.
And he's still walking down the hallway.
Oh man. Not that the movie isn't perfect the way it is, but like sometimes I think about like things that seem like they took a long time, they don't really, and then it's like this could take a lot longer and it'd be really funny if it did.
Yeah. Carrie, do you want to bring up any moments?
Trying to think, are we going kind of chronologically ish?
Yeah,
we don't have to. I mean,
we're kind of around like this. It seems like that we are. So if you want to like bring up something that's like sort of like close to the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can get into like the substance, like Demi Moore, Elizabeth. Oh my god, sorry. Elizabeth like is at the hospital, and she basically gets approached to try the substance, and she looks more into it. It's like this whole process where she has to go to like this really skeezy building and like get the test tubes and stuff,
like down like an alleyway, and it's really weird and dark and
yeah. I mean, and then she gets it and she injects herself, and it's an extremely painful process, and Margaret Qualley climbs out of her.
It's like a really like detailed like thing, like remember you are one, you have to drain liquid from the other person,
from the host. Yeah.
Every once in a while, every like
every day
or whatever.
No, it's every week. No, every week you change, every day you feed.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so the rules are very specific. Honestly, the first time I was watching it, I was like very focused on how does Demi Moore know how to do any of this stuff? Like just the way like it was like, just described, it feels like very abstract, like IKEA instructions where you're like, you think this is simple, but it's really not. And I'm having a hard time figuring out what you want me to do with this board and this thing. And
to be fair though, the instructions are literally big bold print that like step 1, do this.
Yeah, but like then it's like actuate or whatever the word is.
Activate.
Activate. And then I'm like, how does she know where to put the needle and draw out fluid? And I don't know. It's just, you have to kind of like simplify it, I think. But with that, I was just kind of a little bit confused. And then I was like, well, she got it. That's all we need is that Demi Moore understands the process.
Yeah. The reason why Liz is in the hospital is because she does get in a car crash that leads her to the hospital. What I love is the car crash is caused by another moment of her seeing her face on a billboard being ripped off. Another one of like her shining moments are being ripped away, and then immediately she gets in a car crash. So it's like she is at her lowest point right now.
Yeah, and it shows all of the like self-destructive like tendencies. Even though that was an accident, she didn't make that decision, but like, she wasn't paying attention to the road. It's like her life is being like taken away from her because of all these like weird double standards and pressure. And yeah, so right off the bat, she gets injured because of this, and it's it's the beginning of a very huge downward spiral for her.
Yeah, so there's a scene where she is going on a date with a guy who kind of, when she was still had her show, she kind of blew him off, kind of rejected him. You could tell she was kind of like, why does this guy, she feels bad about herself. I think that this guy approaches her and like asks her out. I think she thinks that like, that makes her seem like lesser because, someone she can, I think at the time maybe considers to be, you know, just not on her level, like socially or physically, to have asked her out. But then, she's trying to feel better about herself. She decides that she will actually go out with him. She decides to kind of just live for herself. And it's like really exciting. You really want her to go out on this date and like feel better about herself and like learn to love her. You feel like through this date, she can maybe like learn to love herself a little bit more and learn to have someone else love her. Because her life seems very lonely. But then as she's getting ready for the date, she keeps like looking at herself in the mirror and staring, and eventually she just destroys her makeup that she spent so much time doing. And like obviously Demi Moore and the character, like she's a absolutely beautiful woman. She like, not that anyone needs makeup, but without makeup, she's insanely attractive. And to see someone like just completely fall apart because of how they look and how they perceive themselves to look, and they don't feel good about how they see themselves. And like Demi Moore's acting in this scene is just so phenomenal because she conveys all of that without dialogue. Like, I mean, that's the reason she was, I feel like, nominated for Best Actress, and why at the Oscars, and why she won at the Golden Globes and at some of the other award ceremonies. Like, yeah, it's just like, it is just like a master class in acting, like that entire scene and what she is able to just convey without even really speaking. And it's just like such a self-destructive scene. Like you're just so devastated. I remember when Chad and I were watching it, and she just misses the date because she can't stop looking at herself in the mirror and judging herself. And like it's just so rough. And like I think it's definitely relatable. Like I think we've all been there at some point in our lives, and like what external beauty standards and what external expectations can do to us and make us feel about ourselves.
Yeah, like big self-esteem issues that, I mean, you just said it perfectly. Like, society just kind of, puts into you, and just says you're not enough. And I feel like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy is you just don't, then you don't see yourself as enough. Even though, you don't see yourself as worthy of attention or attraction and stuff. You have someone in this, who's obviously clearly, infatuated with her, really loves her for her like TV persona, but also just like for her. I feel like, it seemed like it was going to be a really good thing for her. And then because she doesn't see herself as worthy, she blows it all up. And I feel like this is the pivotal moment of the movie where it turns into a horror movie. Like, I know this is already after Margaret Qualley climbs out of her back, but there is a point, I feel like, in this where if she goes on the date, maybe it could steer more into like being a drama and stuff. And then this is just like, this is the key decision that she makes to keep going. And different thing. There's a lot of things in this movie that are hard to watch. Specifically, like when there's a point in the movie where Margaret Qualley's character is refusing to go back to being Demi Moore, and she just keeps like piercing Demi Moore's back in the same spot, and it gets really raw and gross. Just like she's basically draining the life out of her, like this insidious, idea of, one person being more worthy of life and happiness than the other, just because they're younger. They're younger and they embody what society says is more attractive, which is clearly not true, as Carrie said. That's hard to watch for one reason, and then seeing her throw away her like chance at happiness is equally, if not even more so, hard to watch, because that's like one is gross and like, oh, I can't even look at the screen right now, and one is my heart is breaking for this character. And like Carrie said, because of the what Demi Moore brings to the role and the writing and just building up this character, you really feel for her and you want to see her go on that road of positivity and happiness, and she goes on the road of self-destruction and hate for herself, and it gets really, really wild from there, from chicken wings and just all this kind of stuff. Hunter, do you want to talk about the big like pump it up scene that's also really gross?
Well, I do want to bring up two things. One, about the missing the date scene. The great thing about this is it's kind of the nucleus of the entire movie, which is, as we said, aging and self-destruction, but also, and I just now realized this on a second watch, there's a sort of depression in that scene where it's like when you're going through a depression, you see yourself in the mirror as someone completely different than what the outside world sees you. You start, as I said, looking at your flaws and things like that. But also the battle between Sue and Elizabeth is the inner, struggle between someone with depression, where it's like, you have that moment of like, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Am I, good looking enough? Blah, 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 blah. But then your other side is constantly battling with you, saying you are in this constant battle between your brain, but in the manifestation of two separate characters, which I love.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also, like, I love that both Sue and Elizabeth, during their TV scenes, they end every one of their dance scenes with "take care of yourself," and they both do not take care of themselves.
Yeah, very.
They're telling other people to take care of themselves, but they are not doing it. They're like masking their trauma onto other people.
Very great point.
But yeah, the pump it up scene, I love it. It's so over the top with so many butt shots. There's like literally like a row of just butt shots. But I love how it mirrors Elizabeth's show as well, where at the beginning it opens up with her and she's actually doing workouts, and like, I don't like how how Elizabeth talked about being a beached whale. You don't want to be a beached whale. That was kind of rude to say to people at home who are trying to work out. But the complete opposite is when Sue comes out. It's more focused on her looks and not the workout. It's more of a dance routine. So one is like trying to help people work out. The other one is just to show off her body and to give an entertaining show for the masses.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And there's the one part where she bends over and like, I guess the chicken wing goes burr on her, like on her thigh or butt. And
yes.
that's a very like jarring, horrific moment because like you don't know what the hell that is. And then like it turns into her like digging into her stomach and pulling out a chicken wing.
Chicken wing, yeah. Which goes back to an earlier scene where we see like Elizabeth, who is in her body. Just again, the depression aspect and mental health aspect of this movie comes into play, where it's like some days you just don't have an energy day and you just want to sit and eat whatever you want because that makes you feel happy for a moment. I love the aspect of like you can look at this movie about multiple different things, which is aging, the Hollywood system, but also mental health, depression, anxiety, things like that, where it's like, yeah, people have days where their depression is bad, so they turn to food, they turn to something else that might not be healthy for them, but it makes them happy in that moment. And Sue seeing what Elizabeth's doing as bad, even though it's the same person. It's they're one consciousness, but they both Sue and Elizabeth start slowly becoming opposite of each other. One wants to focus on their looks and their beauty and their physique. The other one is at a point where they don't care, and it's that internal that battle between yourself, as I said, but in two different physical forms.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of these like, themes are all related.
Mm-hmm.
And how they function of, you could see someone who feels like, their life has kind of passed by and they're no longer valued
Mm-hmm.
just by aging, which is not anyone's fault. Like it happens to everyone. And then that would cause depression and stuff like that. And it is wild to see how how diverse these lives become, because she becomes like this like hermit in her home, Demi
Mm-hmm.
Moore, Elizabeth, and she's just basically, because each of them get a week, but Elizabeth is spending her week pretty much just like sitting there in front of the TV wasting away.
Yep.
While Sue gets to go live this like really fun like life where she's riding motorcycles and driving in cars with a bunch of other hot young
And
people.
having one night stands.
Yeah, doing that, like having a lot of sex and just, fun, partying, being invited to really prestigious shows and, hosting awards and, the New Year's Eve party, which, something's as soon as she gets
Yeah.
New Year's Eve party, it's she's not going to make it the way she thought she was going to.
Yeah, there's one moment I want to bring up earlier on in the film
Yeah.
that I didn't bring up before. The snow globe scene, when we first see Elizabeth holding the snow globe, and then she shakes it and then she throws it at the portrait of herself. Love this moment because a snow globe captures a moment in time, and you see it's kind of, it looks like her when she was younger. So the idea of like being trapped in this timeless object where she's like, I want to be that again, and then she throws it against a portrait of her older self, saying that like, I don't like this version of myself, I want to be the snow globe version of myself, the younger version of myself.
Very interesting. Yeah, movies filled with symbolism. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, is there anything else, Carrie, that you can think of that were?
The ending.
Well,
Yeah,
there's the
the
ending,
ending.
but then there's like the fight before that.
Mm-hmm.
There's the technicals, like the sound design and stuff we haven't really talked
Mm-hmm.
about. But just wouldn't just jump straight into the ending then?
Yeah, we can. That's fine with me.
Honestly, I feel like there is so much more we can get into, like, with the big fight. There's the not really gradual. It's like a stark changes every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth gets taken advantage of basically by her younger self, and then ends up becoming incredibly deformed, and each time you're like terrified to kind of see what she's gonna look like, and just
The
thinking
witch finger was terrifying, bro. The first time you see it,
and like the sound design and everything, like every time it's like something like surprising happens or is displayed to us, you get that sound, and it's just like really creepy and
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, just the way Corley shows all of this stuff is just really incredible and frightening. And yeah, so we have to now get into this very divisive ending with Monstro Elisa Sue.
Yeah.
Harry, do you want to describe what this is?
Yeah. So essentially, this is a monster created by like one of the very first instructions that Elizabeth is given when she starts the substance is like you can only use the activator once. And because they gave that instruction, she's definitely going to be good. And there was like leftover activator liquid. That's coming back. So it comes back. Sue is the one who uses the activator liquid.
After she kills Elizabeth, correct?
She kills Elizabeth. Yeah,
they have that gnarly scene. It's like one of the coolest, scariest fights between like this Six Flags looking Demi Moore. Like the Six Flags guy. She looks kind of like that versus Sue. And it's like this incredible like brawl, and Sue basically straight up just like psychopath murders her.
Yeah, but Sue has started to fall apart because they didn't follow the instructions.
And they have that like really funny part where, because it's a horror comedy, so it, like you get little bits of comedy with, especially with Dennis Quaid's character, and then when he shows up and he's like, pretty girls have to smile, then she can't because her teeth are falling out.
My God, this movie is so great.
Yeah. So when Sue does the activator liquid on herself, the thing that comes out of Sue, or what Sue kind of like transforms into, is Monstro Elisa Sue.
It's a straight up monster.
It's basically the thing at the end of society almost. It's just like
it is
a mishmash of like Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore, and then like body parts and skin, and
there's like an arm coming out of her shoulder doing this. There's her face coming out of her back, just like screaming. It's crazy.
I also think there's a giant boob that just like falls on the ground.
Yeah.
At one point that does happen. Yeah, we for a lot of people who aren't as into horror as we are, I feel like this is such a big swing to show them become this monster, still get ready and like putting on makeup.
I love that.
A nice dress and earrings and all this, and then putting the Demi Moore poster over its face. And then going to the thing that they were invited to
For New Year's Eve ball, correct?
Yeah, to star in the New Year's Eve bar and introduce all of the dancers and stuff like that.
So yeah, the ending is absolutely insane. I love it though because of the big swing it takes, but also you can't have a movie about somebody feeling like they're not perfect. You can't have this movie in any other way than have her pretty much create the monster herself. The monster literally comes out because she doesn't follow the rules, because she doesn't see her inner beauty, which starts all of this. So she wants to be perfect so bad that she ends up creating her own monster, which I love. That ending ties in the entire aspect of the film, which is nobody's perfect. You shouldn't strive to be perfect because no one is, but also if you try to be perfect, a lot of bad stuff can happen from it. And this also talks about steroid use or like, extreme dieting, like all the stuff, plastic surgeries, the stuff that, Hollywood actors go through to have this perfect physique, this perfect body. And then when they get older, all the stuff, the plastic surgeries, don't look as good. They, become plastic. They become more that they weren't themselves into something different.
Yeah, like morphing into something different that
Mm-hmm.
it's always like trying to be something else, trying to be like a younger version of yourself and trying to stave off the aging, and then it doesn't always look exactly how you want it to, kind of a deal. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like the whole thing of perfection that she's always, when she's looking in the mirror, always trying to get herself ready, and just it's never right, it's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then but with this scene, I love how it goes to kind of like the same level as some of these movies like Triangle of Sadness and things that are like, here's your fucking thing that you wanted, kind of a deal, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know you said nothing's in the right place. Well, now everything is in the wrong place,
Yep.
and here it is, and it like really confronts like Hollywood itself with this monstrosity and blood. And yeah, I mean, I know this goes really extreme and it turns off a lot of people, but honestly, like you can't have such a crazy buildup and then just end so flat. And this
Mm-hmm.
takes a huge swing, and it's like here it is. Here is the basically, like, I guess the opposite of what you wanted, but your Hollywood and impossible beauty standards of society, this is what you've turned me into, and here I'm still here showing up for you. And they reject Monstro Elisa Sue, and like basically like kill Monstro Elisa Sue.
That ending is sad. Is so sad too, because someone brought this up. They were like, they were okay with children being in the audience when you had half naked women and naked women on stage, but the moment that a monster shows up, everyone freaks out. And I'm like, it's kind of a good point as well. Like, I understand both ends. Like, why are children there to begin with? But like, they're screaming monster and freak, blah blah blah. And then the sad part is, Elizabeth goes, "No, it's me," or Sue goes, "It's me," because she still thinks that she looks like
Yeah.
the perfect version of herself. And it's so sad when you don't see what you're worth until it's too late.
Yeah, very true. And then it turns into basically like a Frankenstein.
Or King Kong, which they also brought up King Kong in this movie as well. It's a King Kong ending.
Yeah, King Kong, Frankenstein, or you have like the mob coming after you, and then
Mm-hmm.
just end up in the movie just ends up having a blood splurted all over the audience. And I love how crazy that goes, how crazy that is. And it's just a striking image. And it's one where you could say like, oh well, it's beating you over the head with the message, but I don't get
The
like
whole movie does that though.
yeah, but I think that's the whole, yeah, like you said, like it's the whole point of the movie is to
Mm-hmm.
say, look how ridiculous these beauty standards are, and we're gonna show you just how ridiculous we can take this premise.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a disservice to the movie and the audience if she had not done that. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand why people, it's a turnoff for some people, but I think that she made the right decision. Carrie, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic ending. And I like if I don't know. I don't know if I personally talked to anyone who like hates the ending. I'm sure there are people who do.
There are.
Yeah, and I would guess, like you said, Chad, probably non-horror people, but like, look, it's a horror movie, and I think I think it's a perfect ending to this movie. It's just showing how ridiculous these beauty standards are and how like people literally kill themselves to fulfill the expectations of others and to feel better
Yeah.
about themselves, even though what they started out beautiful.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it's also, it's so fun. Like it's such a fun ending. I love it. Like it's amazing.
And you have like the blood squirting, you have like the heavy metal like music going.
And then the ending of her turning into a puddle of blood and then being swept up by the fucking um like she's like a puddle of blood on the walk her star of fame,
Yeah.
and then it just gets
Yeah.
swept up.
Yeah, and it goes full circle. You're at the ending. It ends where it begins. And then I
Yep.
feel like it ends where it begins, kind of like it could also be a callback to something like All About Eve. If you haven't seen that movie, it's just about like this insidious, vicious cycle of loving. Corley Farjay has to be a huge fan about All About Eve because
Oh yeah.
you start with the young ingenue coming in to learn from an aging actress, and then the same thing happens to her. The ingenue later on, she becomes the aged actress that is being
Touted by somebody younger.
exactly, and stuff. So yeah, just the symbolism, but just also the filmmaking, the way that the screenplay shapes it, like I said, it just feels like kind of a perfect movie in a way. Even we said it, even its flaws I think are not bad, because it's like one of those things where it's like it's showing that flaws are okay. It's okay to not be perfect, and
Yeah.
even when you think you're perfect, like Margaret Qualley's character seems perfect, and then turns out she's kind of an asshole.
and and the it talks about like the chain of like wanting perfection, and when you have it you always see a flaw in yourself,
Yeah. Yep.
and it's a constant loop.
It's all about this like insidious like negative perception of yourself, and you're always your biggest critic. And that definitely that's what we talk about, like, is this movie just for like older women or something like that? And it's like, no, everyone has some sort of like negative perception of themselves where they just want to fix something, and then it's like at some point it's never enough, and you're kind of hating on yourself for no reason, and you're actually fine. You're actually like
Yeah.
a really cool, unique person, and I feel like everybody needs to understand that more than Elizabeth did, because she didn't understand that, and look where it got her.
Yep. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything in this movie. So Chad and Carrie, do you guys want to go ahead and I guess plug your stuff before we head out?
Yeah, definitely a great review. I was very excited to talk about this movie. It took a little bit of a long time because this movie came out, a good while ago. We went through a whole award season.
Yep.
Some big snubs, I guess you could say. I would say Margaret Qualley snub. Even though I loved the Mikey Madison win, Demi Moore would have been a really cool win as well. And it was never going to win Best Picture, but a very, very cool horror nomination. I just hope it like leads to maybe we get 2 or 3 horror movies nominated for Best Picture one year. Like that would be really cool just to see that, but yeah, for plugs, definitely go and check out a lot of our other videos on Welcome to Primetime. We're going to start trying to bring more content to the channel and just like fun entertainment, games and reviews and just so much other stuff. We had like a whole 61 days of horror we did, back around Halloween time, that took way too long, but it was really fun. And so we want to do more stuff like that. We want to bring back our decades brackets that we've been doing, trying to figure out what's the greatest horror movie of all time, decided on by us, but also like other panels and whatnot. but yeah, so check out a lot of that other stuff. We have some fun stuff planned, and a lot of legacy stuff that I want to get into the channel from our other channel that we merged into this, big channel. But then check out my other stuff that I do on the side. My the Dill Pickle Movie Network is another great channel my buddy Dylan runs, and I do a show called Picture This on there where we go through the Oscars and we try to talk about every year of the Oscars each month. So check that out, and then check out my other channel, Cinema Chad. Where we do a lot of rankings. We've all been on that channel ranking stuff. And then I'm also trying to do other stuff on there as well, like, reviews and other things. Carrie and I have some other fun stuff planned over on that channel. And a little bit late for this, but it was a really fun time talking the substance with you guys. Just remember that you are one.
You are one. Carrie, any plugs you want to do?
No.
All right. I do want to plug one thing. We about a few weeks ago, we uploaded our 2025 Primetime Awards, which was so fun. Check that out on the channel. We have a lot of great presenters. We have a lot of great skits. Really, really fun videos. So go check that one out. But if you guys did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to Welcome to Primetime, and remember, stay scared.